Hey everybody, it's Emily at Arg Schooling, and today I'm going to be sharing some recommendations for getting started with horror. Maybe you're interested in reading spooky books because it's almost October and it's spooky season, but maybe you've never really delved too much into horror before and you're not really sure where to start. Maybe you're a little bit afraid of reading anything too scary and you want to kind of tiptoe into horror. Well, I have some recommendations for you today. I did a video like this a few years ago. I think it was like back in 2017, so it's been a while. And I thought I have some more recommendations for this kind of thing, so maybe you guys would be interested. So these are books that I feel are like beginner horror, like you're not really ready for like the really dark, scary stuff, but you want to kind of read something spooky. I've got just the thing. So let's kick it off with one of my new favorite authors, Paul Tremblay. I'm going to recommend A Head Full of Ghosts. This book is very much a family drama more than I think it's a scary story. So the basic synopsis I can give you without giving anything away is that the eldest daughter in this family is exhibiting some strange behaviors and they are starting to wonder, is it a demon possession? And rather than go about this the traditional way, they decide to turn this into a reality TV show. And you're learning about this story from somebody who's doing like an expose podcast kind of a thing about it. But you're going back and forth between when it really happened and this podcast. And so like, it's really interesting. There's a lot of like family drama dynamics. It's a really great story. I loved the characters. I loved like the what is actually happening here aspect of the story. And if you're gonna read this as an audiobook, the audiobook is fantastic because it really does have that podcast element to it. So like it's a different narrator for the podcast part. So it really makes for a fun audiobook. So I recommend this. If you're a little bit scared of the demon possession part, I promise that is one of my like most like scary things, and I don't even know why. I don't believe in any of that, but for some reason the idea of like being possessed, that freaks me out a lot. This didn't really scare me at all, which is why I'd hesitated to read it for so many years. I've had this on my shelf for ages and I only read it like a year ago, but that kind of made me nervous. I can promise you that if you are also freaked out by the thought of demon possession, this book's not going to be too scary for you. Next recommendation is one I've read very recently, and I just really wanted to talk about it some more, and that's You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Barron. This book was so fun. This is essentially a slasher story in novel form. So if you've seen a few slashers and you think, blah, I don't really want to read that, I promise this is really good. This is a lot more character driven than a lot of slashers can be, since most of the time a slasher really only has characters there so they can die. In this book, I feel like you really do get to know the characters, particularly your final girl. So basically what this story is it's set in a like summer camp setting, but this is an interactive like slasher movie summer camp. So the way it works is they have their people that work there, the counselors, if you want to think of them like that, and their job is to, it's like a haunted house essentially. Their job is to like make you feel like you're in a slasher movie and like you might die. And so they've got like all these tunnels and things and all these little tricks that they do to make it seem like you're in a slasher. So it's such a fun concept already, but then this slasher camp, suddenly people start actually disappearing and like what's really going on. There was so many twists and turns in this that I did not expect. Like I went into this assuming that I would see what was going to happen well ahead of when it happened, that I would be able to like pick out who's going to die, when, and all of that. No, this book did not go the directions I expected it to. The end, I literally gasped, and I think I even said something out loud. I don't remember what I said, but I definitely shouted something out as I was reading it. But like, I I thought this was so well done, so interesting. There is also sapphic characters, if that's important to you. I thought that was a great addition to the story. People of color is the main cast, so like it's a really great diverse slasher. So well done. I'm definitely going to read just about anything I can find by Kalynn Barron from now on, because the last 2 books I've read by this author have been fantastic. So definitely want to read everything they write. This is also YA, so it's really, really readable, really fast read. So I think this is a great starting place for that reason. It is a slasher, but it's not overly gory. It's not overly like disgusting or anything like that. It's really more of a thriller kind of a story, so I think it works really well for a beginner horror. My next recommendation is one we actually read as book club a couple of years ago, so, or maybe it was last year, I don't remember. If you're new here, or if you didn't want to read it because you thought it might be too scary, let me recommend The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. I loved this. So this is a Carrie retelling. You know, Stephen King's Carrie. I think everyone knows what Carrie is at this point, but if you're not sure, Carrie is essentially a story about a girl who is abused at home, who is bullied at school, and she's very quiet, very shy, very scared. She discovers she has telekinesis, and she gets revenge on everybody who ever messed with her. This story is inspired by Carrie. I'll say that. It is definitely not, it's not going to follow the exact beats of Carrie by Stephen King, but it does have the same essence. So we're still following a girl who has a somewhat traumatic upbringing. She is biracial, but she's white passing, except for her hair. And her father has like kind of beat into her this idea that blackness is bad. So she keeps her hair straightened at all costs. She avoids being outdoors when it's raining or anything like that because of her hair. So she's hidden her blackness. And at school, she's very quiet, very shy, doesn't have a lot of friends. And a rumor starts that she's biracial and she freaks out. And she also discovers she has telekinesis. So like there's that's the like similarities. From there on though, I think it's very different in essence to Carrie. So if you go in expecting it to happen exactly the same way, it's not gonna. It's different. And it's so good. I feel like this is a great place to start in horror if you're just getting started, because it isn't just there to be scary. Like, there are scary elements, obviously, but this isn't a scary book. But it is, like, thought-provoking and interesting and so much fun. Also, I gotta shout out the audiobook. The audiobook is fantastic. It's a full cast. It's got like background music and sounds and things. So like you really get like this whole like radio drama aspect from the audio that I just thought was so much fun. So definitely recommend this one as an audiobook if you can find it. But like it's just a really great story, really thought-provoking, really interesting, while also being just a little bit scary. My next recommendation technically would not fall under the horror category at all. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone refer to this as horror, but it definitely has a lot of those aspects to it. And that is Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. This is more gothic horror. So this is set in the early 1800s in Scotland, and it is very much a, like, inspired by Frankenstein. It's inspired by any kind of, like, gothic story where there's, like, weird butchery, medicine happening. We have our main character who is obsessed with becoming a doctor. She just loves medicine. She loves the idea of being a surgeon. So she dresses in her brother's clothes to like disguise herself so she could go to the medical school and study. And so there's this whole like medical aspect happening. There's a hint of like fantastical stuff in here with the way the Frankenstein procedures are happening. There's a murder mystery happening. It's very dark, very gothic. So good. Like, it's so much fun to read. I loved this book, could not put it down, inhaled it. I think I read this in like 2 or 3 sittings because I just like needed to know what was going to happen. So highly recommend that. If you love like a historical story, if you love atmospheric stories, this is so delicious. It's so good. The writing is fantastic. The like girl in medicine is so much fun to read, and like her passion for it is just beautiful to read about. There is a little bit of a romance in this. Again, though, definitely not the main plot of the story. It very much is more about the murder mystery. It's more about like her desire to be a surgeon and that sort of thing. Like when it says a love story, to me the love story is really Hazel's love for surgery and medicine and like her desperate need to do that. Definitely a like baby step into horror kind of a story. And the last book I want to recommend, I don't have it copied because it was a library book and I already brought it back, but it was Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. This was so much fun, and I just like really want to recommend it to people because especially if you've heard of Chuck Tingle and you know like the kind of stuff he typically writes and you're like, I promise it's nothing like that. This is a story about a gay conversion camp, but it's not what you think it is. So like the story is about this character who is trying her best to be the daughter that she thinks she's supposed to be for her very religious family. They live in this like community where everyone is really super religious, and the big like thing in their community is this gay conversion camp that's supposed to have this amazing success rate. And she kind of slowly throughout the story starts to realize that there's something going on here. Maybe was she at this camp? Did they do something to her? And it's so not what I thought it was going to be going in. Like I didn't really have very high expectations for it because like I didn't really know what to expect. And it like just blew me away at every turn. I loved it. It's such a rich story, so many details, so many like the way that the conversion camp works was so different from anything else I think I've ever read. It was just such a fun read. Did not know what was going to happen at any moment in the story. It just kind of, I was there for the ride, and it was such a fun ride. So definitely recommend that. And again, there's a lot of really weird stuff happening, but nothing that I think would be like overly terrifying, or it's not going to give you nightmares, I don't think. So I think it makes for a great like beginner getting into horror kind of a book. So those are my 5 recommendations for getting started in horror. I hope that you found something in this video to pick up and read. Let me know down below, what is your favorite scary movie, scary story? What do you do to get into spooky season? I would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and be sure to come back for another video next time. Happy reading! Bye!